she wasn't a maid. She was the billionaire's mother, but for 1 week, she put on a maid's uniform and quietly walked into her own son's mansion. Not to clean, not to serve. She was there for one reason only: to discover whether the woman her son was about to marry truly loved him, or only the fortune that came with his name. The fiancée never greeted her. She snapped her fingers to call her over, ordered her to clean up after everyone, mucked her old uniform, lawed when guests treated her like she didn't exist.
Make sure this floor is spotless.
And when a glass slipped from her hands, the fiancée humiliated her in front of the entire mansion. She called her a useless servant who didn't belong in this house. She had no idea.
Look at this mess! Clumsy as always.
The woman she was humiliating wasn't just another maid. She was the billionaire's mother, the one person who could end the wedding with a single sentence. And before this week was over, the entire mansion was about to witness a truth that would change every life inside it forever. Before we continue, welcome back to SM Stories. If this is your first time here, we tell real, emotional, life-changing stories every single week. Stories about love, family, betrayal, and justice. If you love stories like this, subscribe now, because what happens next in this story will stay with you for a long time. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Her name was Adeeze Kalu. At 61 years old, she had seen many things in life: poverty, struggle, loss, and finally, success beyond anything she ever imagined. Her son, Amecha Kalu, was now one of the wealthiest men in the country. Hotels, real estate, shipping companies. His name alone could open any door in the city. But Adeeze never forgot where they came from. She remembered nights with no light. She remembered selling a kara by the roadside to pay Amecha's school fees. She remembered praying over him when he had nothing but hope. Now he had everything, and she was proud of him. But something troubled her heart. Amecha was about to marry a woman named Chiamaka Douglas. A beautiful woman, a well-spoken woman, a woman who smiled perfectly in every photograph. But Adeeze had a feeling, a quiet, uncomfortable feeling. Something about that girl is not real, she told her closest friend one evening. I have watched her. She smiles at my son, but she looks at everyone else like they are beneath her. Her friend shook her head. Adeeze, you are imagining things. The girl is polite. She greets everyone. She greets people with money, Adeeze said quietly. I have never once seen her greet a driver, or a gateman, or a cleaner. That night, Adeeze made a decision that would change everything. She was going to find out the truth about Chiamaka Douglas before her son married her, and she was going to do it the only way that would show the real truth. Without money, without title, without respect, she was going to become a maid in her own son's mansion. 2 days later, a new housemaid arrived at the Kalu mansion. She wore a plain gray uniform. She carried an old bag. She walked with her head slightly bowed, the way poor women in this city had learned to walk in front of the rich for their own safety. The head of staff, a serious woman named Beatrice, looked her over. Your name? Comfort, Adeeze said. It was not her real name. It was the name of the little girl she used to be, before life became easier. Comfort. All right. You'll assist in the East Wing. Madame Chiamaka spends most of her time there when she visits. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not look her in the eye for too long. She does not like it. Adeeze, now simply Comfort, nodded and said nothing. Inside, her heart was breaking a little. Is this how they treat people in my son's house? The first week, Comfort watched quietly. She watched Amecha snap her fingers at the younger maids. She watched her leave her room in complete chaos and demand it be perfect again in 10 minutes. She watched her call the driver useless simply for arriving 2 minutes late in traffic that was not his fault. Nobody in that house dared to defend themselves. Everyone was afraid of losing their job. Everyone, except one person. Her name was Amecha. Amecha was the newest maid in the house, younger than Comfort, with tired eyes but a warm heart. She had been hired only a month earlier, after her father's illness left her family with no income. She worked 12-hour days, sent almost every naira home, and never once complained. But what struck Comfort most was how Amecha treated her. On Comfort's very first day, when her hands shook from carrying a heavy tray, Amecha quietly took it from her. "Let me help you, Mama," Amecha said gently. "You don't have to prove anything on your first day." Comfort blinked, surprised. "Thank you, my daughter. We all struggle here," Amecha said, smiling softly. "No need to struggle alone." It was such a small moment, but Adeze, hidden inside the disguise of Comfort, felt something warm move through her chest. "This girl has a good heart," she thought. "A heart like the one I used to have. Before life gave me money." Days passed, and the contrast grew sharper and sharper. One afternoon, Amecha spilled red wine on the living room rug during a small gathering with her society friends. "Comfort," she shouted, without even looking up. "Clean this before it stains. Are you deaf?" Comfort walked over slowly and knelt down. As she wiped the floor, Amecha continued speaking to her friends as if Comfort was invisible. "Honestly," Amecha laughed, "you cannot imagine how hard it is to find good help these days. They move so slowly. It's like their brains are slow too." Her friends laughed along. Comfort's hands trembled, not from fear, but from the pain of being spoken about like she was not even human. Like decades of hard work and sacrifice meant nothing, simply because right now she wore a uniform. Across the room, unseen by everyone, Amecha watched with tears building in her eyes. She wanted to say something, but she was new. She was scared. She needed this job to survive. That night, Amecha found Comfort sitting alone in the small staff room, staring at her hands. "Mama," Amecha said softly, sitting beside her. "I saw what happened today. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that." Comfort looked at her, surprised again by this young woman's courage. "Why do you care so much, my daughter? You could get in trouble for even talking to me like this." Amecha shrugged gently. "Because kindness should not depend on how much money someone has. My mother used to say, respect the cleaner the same way you respect the king, because one day you may need both." Comfort's eyes filled with tears she quickly wiped away. If only my son could hear this girl speak, she thought. If only he knew what real value looks like. Meanwhile, Amecha was a busy man. Meetings, flights, deals worth billions. He trusted his mansion to run itself under Beatrice's management, and he trusted his mother's judgment more than anyone's. Except in matters of love, he had convinced himself he knew best. He believed Amecha loved him. He did not yet understand. Love that only appears in public, in photographs, in perfect smiles, is not always love at all. One evening, arriving home earlier than expected, Amecha walked quietly through the kitchen. A rare habit of his, checking on the staff himself, remembering the days his own mother once worked with her hands. He saw Amecha sitting on the floor beside an older maid, gently massaging her aching feet after a long day, laughing softly together over a shared cup of tea. He did not recognize his own mother in disguise. But he noticed something else. He noticed Amara's kindness. He noticed how she made an old, tired woman laugh without needing anyone to see her do it, without an audience, without reward. That, he thought quietly to himself, is rare. He said nothing. He simply walked away, but the image stayed in his mind for days. As weeks passed, small clues began to appear. Clues that something about Comfort was not ordinary. One afternoon, when a delivery truck driver became rude to the staff, Comfort stepped forward and spoke a few calm words. The driver immediately apologized and left without argument. Beatrice, watching from a distance, frowned. Why did he listen to her so quickly? Another day, the head of security greeted Comfort with unusual respect, almost bowing his head, a habit no one could explain because he had only been hired 2 years ago, long after Amecha's fortune was already made. Back when Adaze herself had personally approved his hiring, though no one currently on staff remembered her face, whispers began among the younger maids. Have you noticed? Comfort speaks differently sometimes. She corrected an accountant on the phone last week, fixed a payment error before he even found it. Who trains a maid to understand payments like that? Nobody dared ask her directly, but suspicion was growing. Amecha noticed nothing. She was too focused on her wedding plans, her guest list, her dress fittings, and on making sure everyone around her understood exactly how important she was about to become. The emotional center of the story began to build one quiet evening. Amara was crying softly in the garden, thinking she was alone. Comfort found her there. What is wrong, my daughter? Amara wiped her face quickly. It's nothing, Mama. I received a call. My father is getting worse. The hospital needs money I don't have yet. Comfort sat beside her in silence for a moment. You know, Comfort said gently, the hardest part of being poor is not the hunger, it is the shame. The world makes you feel small for something that is not your fault. Amara looked at her, surprised by the depth of those words. But listen to me, Comfort continued. Poverty is not who you are. It is only what you are carrying right now. A strong heart like yours will not carry it forever. That night, without telling anyone, Comfort made a quiet phone call. The next morning, Amara's father's hospital bill was mysteriously paid in full. Amara never knew who did it. She simply cried tears of relief and whispered, Thank you, God. Comfort, Adaze smiled quietly to herself in the corner of the kitchen, saying nothing. A mother helps her children, she thought, even the ones she just met. But peace never lasts long in a house built on secrets. The wedding was now only 2 weeks away, and Amecha's cruelty grew worse as the pressure of planning increased. One evening, during a rehearsal dinner with important guests, business partners, family friends, even a respected traditional chief, Amecha lost her temper completely. Comfort had accidentally placed the wrong seating card at the head table. Are you stupid? Amecha snapped, loud enough for the entire room to hear. Is this how you want to embarrass me in front of my future in-laws? Kneel down and apologize to everyone right now. The room went silent. Comfort stood still, her heart pounding, her dignity screaming inside her. Amara, standing nearby, stepped forward instinctively. Please. She made a small mistake. There's no need for. Stay out of this, Amecha snapped at her too. Or you'll both be gone by morning. At that exact moment, the front door opened. Amecha walked in, earlier than expected, straight from the airport, still in his travel clothes. He froze in the doorway, watching the scene in front of him. His fiancée, screaming at an old woman to kneel in front of dozens of guests. Something inside him turned cold. "Amecha," Amecha said quietly, his voice carrying an authority that instantly silenced the room. "What did you just say to her?" Amecha's expression shifted instantly, from fury to a practiced sweetness. "Amecha, my love, you're home early. It's nothing, just a small staff mistake. I heard what you said," Amecha interrupted, his eyes still on Comfort, who stood frozen, refusing to kneel. He walked closer, looking at the old woman with a strange, uneasy feeling he could not explain. "What is your name?" he asked her gently. Comfort looked up at her son, the son she raised with her own hands, the son standing before her now as a stranger in a suit, and for a moment her voice caught in her throat. "My name is Comfort, sir," she said quietly. Amecha studied her face longer than he meant to. Something about her eyes felt familiar, but he could not place it. He turned to Amecha. "You do not speak to people like that. Not in my house. Not anywhere." Amecha forced a laugh. "Amecha, she's just a maid." "She is a human being," Amecha said, his voice sharp now. "The same way my mother was before she had money. The same way I was before I had this house." The room stayed silent. Guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. Comfort's eyes filled with tears. Not from the humiliation this time, but from pride. "He remembers," she thought. "My son still remembers where he came from." That night, after the guests left, Amecha could not sleep. He kept thinking of Comfort's eyes, of Amara's quiet kindness weeks earlier, of the growing coldness he felt whenever he was near Amecha. Despite months of convincing himself he loved her, he walked down to the kitchen for water and found Amara there, quietly preparing breakfast supplies for the next morning, humming softly to herself. "You're still awake," he said. Amara startled, quickly standing straight. "Sir, I'm sorry, I was just finishing." "It's fine," he said, sitting on a stool nearby. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, sir. Why did you stand up for Comfort tonight? You could have lost your job." Amara thought for a moment before answering honestly. "Because someone has to. If everyone stays silent when a person is treated unfairly, then unfair treatment becomes normal. My father always told me, silence in front of injustice is its own kind of injustice." Amecha looked at her for a long moment. "Your father sounds like a wise man. He is the best man I know," Amara said, smiling gently despite her exhaustion. "Even sick, even poor, he never once complained about life. He just kept loving us." Amecha felt something shift inside his chest, something he had not felt in a very long time. Real, he thought. This is what real looks like. Over the following days, Amecha began watching his household more carefully, not as its owner, but as a man searching for truth. He noticed how Amecha's kindness disappeared the moment cameras and guests were gone. He noticed how she spoke to staff like they were furniture. He noticed how she checked her phone the entire time whenever his mother, the real Adeze, whom she had met only twice, called to speak with her, always finding an excuse to end the call quickly. And slowly, painfully, he began to understand. She never loved me, he realized. She loved what I could give her, but he needed proof, real proof, not suspicion. So he made a decision. He called his mother's private number, the real Adeze, whom he believed was traveling abroad on a long vacation. Unaware she had been standing beside him this entire time in a maid's uniform. The phone in Comfort's pocket rang quietly that night. She looked at the screen. It was her real phone, the one only her son knew. Her heart nearly stopped. She stepped outside quietly and answered. "Amecha?" "Mama," his voice came through, tired and heavy. I need your advice. I think I'm about to make the biggest mistake of my life." Comfort closed her eyes, guilt and love mixing together inside her. "Soon, my son," she thought. "Soon you will understand everything." The final event arrived, the official pre-wedding banquet attended by the entire elite society of the city. Business leaders, government officials, extended family from both sides. It was meant to be the night Amecha Douglas was formally welcomed into the Kalu family name. Instead, it became the night everything collapsed. Midway through dinner, Amecha stood to make a toast, glowing with confidence, describing her humble journey to love. A story everyone in the room knew was carefully rehearsed. Then, needing more wine, she turned toward Comfort, who was serving quietly near the back wall. "You," Amecha said sharply, snapping her fingers. "Come here now. In front of all these people, let me show you something." She grabbed Comfort's wrist and pulled her toward the center of the room. "This is what real hard work looks like," Amecha announced to the guests, laughing lightly. "This woman probably worked her whole life and still has nothing. No money, no name, no future. Meanwhile, she smiled proudly, I am about to become Mrs. Kalu." The room chuckled awkwardly, unsure whether to laugh or stay silent. Comfort stood still, her wrist gently released, her spine straightening slowly with quiet, unshakable dignity. And then, calmly, clearly, in a voice that suddenly did not sound like a maid's voice at all, she spoke. "You are right about one thing," Comfort said. "I have worked hard my entire life." The room went quiet. "I sold food on the street to survive. I raised a son with nothing but prayer and stubbornness. And I built, with these same hands you just grabbed, the foundation of everything you are standing inside tonight." Gasps rippled through the room. Amecha, standing near the entrance, felt his heart stop. "My name," she continued, her voice steady, powerful, "is not Comfort." She looked directly at her son. "My name is Adieze Kalu, and I am the mother of the man this woman is about to marry." The room exploded into stunned silence, then chaos. Guests stood up. Phones were raised. Whispers turned into shocked exclamations. Amecha's face drained of all color. That's not possible. You're just a maid," Adieze finished calmly. "Yes, for 4 weeks I was exactly that. And in those 4 weeks, I learned more truth about you than I could have learned in 4 years of dinners and pleasant smiles." Beatrice, the head of staff, covered her mouth in shock, suddenly understanding every strange, respectful glance the security team had given Comfort over the past month. The security chief lowered his head immediately. "Madam Kalu, forgive me, I did not recognize." "You did nothing wrong," Adieze said gently. "You treated me exactly as instructed. That was never your fault." Then she turned back to Amecha, whose hands were now visibly shaking. "You called me stupid. You made me kneel. You told an entire room that people like me have no future," Adieze said, her voice calm but heavy with years of pain. "Not because you knew who I was, but because you believed no one like me deserved respect at all. That is who you really are when you think no one important is watching." Amecha walked slowly to his mother's side, his face pale, his heart breaking with guilt and love at the same time. "Mama," he whispered, "you did this for me?" "I did this," Adieze said, taking his hands, "because I refuse to watch you marry a woman who would have made you as cold as she is 1 year at a time without you even noticing." Amecha, desperate, turned to Amecha, tears suddenly appearing in her eyes. "Amecha, please, you know me. This is not who I really am. I made a mistake, that's all." "Everyone makes mistakes." Amecha looked at her for a long, painful moment. "A mistake is spilling a drink," he said quietly. "What you did, for weeks to someone weaker than you when you thought there would be no consequence, that is not a mistake. That is character. He removed the engagement ring box from his pocket, the one he had been carrying, unsure for days. I think we both know this wedding will not be happening. Chiamaka's tears turned instantly to fury. You'll regret this, Amecha. Everyone will laugh at you. People will say Chiamaka Douglas left you at the altar, not the other way around. Let them say whatever they want, Amecha replied calmly. I would rather be laughed at for choosing honesty than admired for hiding beside cruelty. Security quietly escorted a humiliated, furious Chiamaka from the banquet hall, her perfect image shattering in front of the very society she had worked so hard to impress. Then, in the heavy silence that followed, Amecha's eyes searched the room and found Amara standing quietly near the kitchen entrance, stunned by everything she had just witnessed. He walked toward her, ignoring the 100 pairs of eyes still watching him. You knew, he said softly. Didn't you? Some part of you sensed something about comfort. Amara shook her head honestly. I only knew she deserved kindness. I never once suspected who she truly was. I simply treated her the way I would want someone to treat my own mother. Adaze, standing nearby, smiled through fresh tears. That, she said, stepping closer, is exactly why I trust you completely, my daughter. Not because you were kind to a billionaire's mother, but because you were kind to a stranger, expecting absolutely nothing in return. In the weeks that followed, the story of that banquet night spread quietly through the city, not as gossip, but as a lesson people repeated to their own children. Respect the cleaner the same way you respect the king, people began saying, unaware they were repeating words a poor girl once whispered to a disguised billionaire's mother in a quiet staff room. Amara did not immediately accept Amecha's growing affection. She was cautious, unsure, afraid of being seen as someone chasing wealth she never wanted. I don't want people thinking I planned this, she told Adieze one evening. I don't want to be seen as someone who used kindness as a strategy. Adize took her hands gently. My daughter, real love is never afraid of how it looks. It is only afraid of not being real. And what I watched you do for weeks, when you believed no reward was coming, that was the realest thing I have seen in years. Slowly, gently, without pressure, without performance, something honest began growing between Amara and Amecha, built not on parties or perfect photographs, but on quiet kitchen conversations, shared laughter, and mutual respect earned the hard way. 6 months later, in a small, warm ceremony, nothing like the extravagant banquet that never happened, Amecha Kalu married Amara. Adize stood at the front, no longer wearing a gray uniform, no longer answering to the name Comfort, dressed in her finest traditional attire, tears of pure joy on her face. Beatrice, the once strict head of staff, now smiled proudly from the front row, having long since apologized. Unnecessarily, Adize always insisted, for treating her employer like a stranger for 4 long weeks. Adieze once said something that Amara never forgot and repeated to her own children many years later. Money can buy silence. It can buy smiles. It can even buy a wedding hall full of guests. But it can never buy a kind heart. That you either have or you never truly did. And in that quiet mansion where cruelty once wore a crown and kindness once wore a uniform, love finally wore its true face.